The very first episode, the notes were just a list of topics. Around the time of Friday the 13th, which was episode 5, I started adding a little more to our notes. I had a list of the kills from the movies, kind of more general stuff. You see, this goes on for a couple of pages. And then by the time I get to episode 11, Urban Legends, I actually have some notes here talking about the things we're discussing. Then we get to musicals. At this point in the show's history, I wasn't doing the notes like I do now. I was watching the film and would essentially write down my thoughts as I was watching it. Association note. I did the Nightmare on Elm Street episode, which came up not too long afterwards, like this. I didn't really like that style of note because I felt they were not concise enough. They were still rather rambling. That was what I disliked about those early episodes when they were rambling. Episode 23, The Films of Wes Craven, was the first one I did in what would become my traditional note style from that point on, where I watch the movie, I review the movie, I take notes from my reviews. That way I've already assembled my thoughts, and now I'm just reconfiguring them into discussion starters. And that's what I've always done since then.
So what episode was the Wes Craven episode?
That was episode 23.
And we're on episode what?
116, 117? Listeners of the show, if you've ever wondered what the process is for my notes, that's it. Watch a movie, I write a review of it, then I chop up that review into discussion points, and JD hates it.
I despise it.
More than once he's come over here, and I'm still working on putting the notes together, but that's something that won't be happening now. Let's actually start the episode now. This is an episode of the podcast I've been dreading doing for a while now. They say that all good things must come to an end. We're going to announce it right here. Yeah, JD's got his Bangers and Mash t-shirt on. This is the last regular episode of the Bangers and Mash show. I know our listeners are going to be disappointed by this. It was not a decision we made lightly. This is something we thought about and agonized for about a year now. There are a lot of different reasons why the show is ending.
I think the biggest thing is just lack of time.
From the beginning, we have said we wanted to make 100 episodes. I've always thought if a TV show, if a comic book, if an ongoing series makes it to 100 episodes, that means they've made it. They're successful. We hit 100 episodes, that meant we really put the effort into it. We weren't a two-pump chump. We didn't puss out. We went the distance. We actually put the effort in to make the show work. So we had that agreement. Anytime after 100 episodes, we can call it quits. And we hit that goal last October with the Child's Play episode, which was our Halloween episode last year. I think you and I had a bit of a misunderstanding over what that agreement meant. I took it to mean that anytime after 100, we could end. There would not be a commitment to keep doing the show every week after we hit that 100 episode. I think you took it to mean after we hit 100 episodes, we can end the show.
No, it's just, by that point, I had a lot going on, plus I was taking care of my grandmother. I would always have a list of 10 different movies to watch, and never had the time to watch them.
Giving you homework, you would call it.
Yes, homework. And
you didn't do your homework when we were actually in school.
Yeah, so why would you think I'd do it now? I was at the point where something had to go.
And for a while there, you and I had made this agreement. You wanted to end the show. I didn't. I wanted to keep going. I basically said to you, okay, JD, we'll end the show in November. We wanted to get through Halloween, and we wanted to get through Justice League. And that was the decision, and I said, do you mind if I start a new podcast after we wrap up the Bangers and Mash show? And initially you were like, I don't know if I like that idea. You were being very possessive and clingy, like a jealous ex. Jerk. My initial plan was this month, December, I wanted to go ahead. I had planned to have a format where I would invite people I've met over the internet, friends of mine. I would have a revolving guest host to talk about a topic with me, the way you and I have done with Bangers and Mash for the last 6 years. But unfortunately, earlier this year, I hit a wall. I'm sure our listeners have noticed, or maybe they haven't noticed because the shows have always come out rather sporadically. Perhaps they have noticed that the episodes have been coming out rather slowly this year. We haven't been hitting our goal of 2 episodes a month very often. The reason for that is because I got a serious case of burnout, and I actually thought about it, and I realized the precise moment when I became burned out with editing the show. It was in March. I had spent about the last 4 or 5 hours editing the King Kong episode. I was all but done. We had a power outage here for a second. The lights went off and came back on immediately. But it was enough to shut my computer down. And unfortunately, I was not press save every 5 minutes, so I lost an entire day's worth of work. I had a pretty ugly meltdown about it. At that point, I said to myself, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm really tired of editing audio. Since then, it's been like pulling teeth. I really have to force myself to work on the show. I've always said that when it starts to feel like work, it's time to stop. That initial plan of ending the Bangers of Mash show and starting a new podcast will not be happening now. We're both going to take a long break from podcasting. Well, first off, I just want to clarify one thing to the listeners. This is the last regular episode of the Bangers of Mash show. It is not the last episode forever. Fan awards are going to happen every year, every January, as long as I can keep doing it. You can ask JD. We've talked about it before. I've been doing the Fan Awards since high school. I love it. I will keep doing it as long as I can. I can tell you it's definitely happening this January. There actually will not be too long of a break between the time this episode comes out and our next episode. And you and I have talked about how we will probably continue to record episodes about the Monster Mania convention as long as we keep going to them.
And there's been some discussion about if there's something we're really passionate about talking about, we might kick up the mic.
Exactly.
So you might get a Nerd Vomit next year. It's going to be the last consistent episode.
Think of it this way. This is like the series finale, but there will be reunion specials sporadically into the future. That's the plan anyway. Who the hell knows? That's the primary reason the show is ending. Secondary reason the show is ending. When you and I started this podcast, we had started the show back in 2012. I certainly had hopes that we would find an audience, that we would find a following, that the show would become popular to a degree, that we would have a loyal listener fan base. I'm not disparaging our listeners. We do have a loyal fan base, and I love you guys and appreciate the support you've given us so much over the years. The show never really met my expectations for what I had hoped we would achieve, especially recently. Within the last year, our episodes have been getting maybe 50, 30 listens. What audience we've had has waned over the years. I hate to say this because I'm making it sound like the show is a failure, and I don't consider the show a failure. We put the effort into it. We put out a quality product most of the time. I can't vouch for the quality of all those commentary episodes. I feel like the majority of the time we put out a quality product that I'm proud of. But overall, the show did not achieve the dreams I had for it. We've been doing it for 6 years. For a podcast, that's a good chunk of time. And in that time, we never really hit that goal where I was hoping we would have over 1,000 regular listeners or something like that. We never really got there. If it hasn't happened by this point, it's probably not going to happen. Watch this episode blow up and be a huge success.
Well, if you start getting more regular episodes after this, guys, you know what happened.
Yeah.
We started hitting 1 million views per episode.
Where the store isn't successful, but then they put the closing sign out front and suddenly hundreds of people are coming in.
Yeah, they saw one person a day for 6 years. They put a closing sign on it, and every person in town came in and bought $300 worth of stuff.
Yeah, we didn't expect to do it this long. I had hoped we would run for many, many years, but I think JD thought, well, we'll probably do this for a few months. And it certainly seemed like it. That first year, I think we put out 9 episodes in our first year. We got a harsh schooling in the realities of putting out a show on a regular basis that first year. Or I should say I did. Ask me, JD, how many hours of work did I regularly put into the podcast?
Gee, Zach, how many hours of work did you regularly put into the podcast?
I would say I probably put anywhere from 6 to 12 hours of editing into every episode, which is one of the reasons why I'm burnt out, I'm sure.
Probably.
People have complained over the years that the show is over-edited, and I can't deny that. It totally is over-edited.
We sound like robots. I hate the over-editing. I just want you guys to know that I've been on your side this whole entire time. And he can vouch for me on that. What do I say to you every time I listen to a podcast?
It's over-edited, man. You need to reel that in.
Doesn't
you
sound
don't say
natural.
that because nobody says reel that in except me.
I always say it sounds too unnatural. It sounds like it's scripted, it's choppy.
Choppy is absolutely fair criticism. It does sound that way. I've worked over the years to try and fix that, and I think I have gotten a lot better at it. I know the people listening to the show don't care. If we put out episodes completely unedited, and you heard all the ums, JD blowing his nose, us all the gross mouth noises we make, like that. If the listeners heard those, I know they wouldn't give a shit. When you talk to your friend, you don't hear yourselves making those noises. Your brain edits them out for you. And most podcasts are just dudes talking. That's the main genre of podcasts, men talking about bullshit. Usually there are lots of ums and heys and you-knows and guys and dudes in it. When I hear that stuff, it's nails on the chalkboards for me, and that's because I have obsessive-compulsive disorder, and I'm not joking. I really have obsessive-compulsive disorder. disorder. And I know because of that, I could never force myself to put out the show and edit it. The few times we did it with the commentary episodes, I hated it. I was so afraid that people listening to the show would think we sound like idiots. And
okay, but what was our highest viewed episode?
this is something I do not understand. Our most popular episode is the Frankenstein commentary, which was episode 10? It wasn't episode 10, it was episode 12, I think. 12 or 13. Way more popular than any of our other episodes. It has something like 300,000 views.
Something like that.
Nearly 500,000 views. And I don't know why it hasn't extended to the rest of the series. Most of the other episodes are sitting around a couple hundred views. I don't understand what about that episode in particular. Maybe somebody somewhere, some influencer, linked to it. And that's another reason why I suck at self-promotion. This is something I've struggled with throughout my entire career as a quote-unquote content creator. And I'm really bad at getting people to listen to the show. I always feel like I'm imposing on people. I hate to be that guy on the internet who says, "Hey, buy my book!" By the way, buy my book.
And it's only like 99 cents.
I've got 2 books now. They both have the word last in the title. We had a couple episodes that were pretty popular for us. It was always a weird one. It was the second Godzilla episode. The second part of our 4-part Godzilla episode has a couple thousand views compared to the rest of them who have a couple hundred. Why part 2? To me, my brain is so fucked up, I don't think about this shit the way normal people do. Normal people will pick up a YouTube video and say, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll listen to this." I'm of the opinion, I'm not going to listen to part 2 of 4. If I'm going to get into something, usually when I become interested in a podcast, I'll listen to whatever the newest episode is, and I go, "Hey, this is pretty good," and I'll go back to the beginning and work my way back. But most people don't do that. And
I do that, and I'm not obsessive compulsive.
Yeah, but I've rubbed off on you over the years. I
have always been that way. I think I actually saw Superman 2 before I ever saw Superman, and I had to go back and watch Superman.
Well, it's a little different with a movie. I feel like a TV show is a better comparison. Yeah, and that could be another reason why we're ending the show is I've never been able to figure out what this formula for success is. I don't know where the keys are. I don't even know what the keys are conceptually. The keys exist on another plane of perception. We're not here to mourn the show. We're here to celebrate this thing you and I have accomplished together. The 6-year journey we've been on. First off, like I said, I love everybody who has ever listened to more than one episode or has ever listened to one episode all the way through. Listeners, I am so thankful for you guys. Went through every episode of the podcast, every Facebook post, and looked at your names. I want to thank some of you, as many of you as I can. I want to thank Lee, who has been our loyal listener from very early on in the show. I think he reached out to us around the Evil Dead episode, which was episode 14 or 12.
Yeah, but wasn't Lloyd our first ever?
Lloyd, who sometimes on the Facebooks goes by Syriad. I want to apologize if I'm revealing your secret identity there, Lloyd. He wrote us our first fan letter, which was a momentous occasion. For about that first year and a half, I felt like we were just screaming into the void, that nobody was listening at all.
Yeah, so Lloyd, buddy, you're a big reason we kept going.
You are genuine. No bullshit. The handful of really devoted people we have are the primary reason we have been doing the show for about the last year and a half.
Like, there was a couple of times where we were just like, man, do we really need to record today?
Do it for the fans, man.
Yeah, one of us would be. Usually it was Zach, but every once in a while I'd be like, come on, man, the fans need a new episode.
It's true. Lloyd and Lee, our hearts 100% go out to you. Thank you guys so much. I really cannot be more sincere about that. I really, really appreciate everything you've done for us. Juan has been a loyal listener. He's even tweeted at me on Twitter. Thank you so much.
Monkey Schmo.
Monkey Schmo or Monkeyzmo. However, you never got back to us on how you pronounce your name.
Monkey Schmo. I'm telling you, it's Monkey Schmo. I'd be willing to bet my paycheck on it.
He was a regular listener on YouTube. Wit was a regular listener on YouTube and my blog. Personal friends of ours, Jarrett, Tony, Cody, Rob, who was on our Sleepaway Camp episode, Jeremy, Petey, thank you guys for listening and liking. We appreciate it so much. David Brown, Dr. Desack, Manuel, Dustin Koski, Darren, Marcus Jones, Brandon Leday, Guy Vollen, William Nye, Luke Jesse. Thank you guys all for listening, liking, participating, contributing to the show. Hope to hear from some of you again in the near future. I think I will. And then I want to give a special shout out to Aaron, who's the guy who apparently used our Frankenstein commentary as a source on a paper he did. And he said he got an A on it. Thank you. That's amazing. All you guys, for this magical invention of the internet, you guys have reached out to us, and I appreciate it more than you can imagine. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And we know that there are more of you out there that listen to the show.
We do.
These are some people that we've made note that have communicated with us several times.
Yeah.
We would like to thank the regular listeners.
Everybody listening to this who has ever listened to an episode, even if you've listened to 5 seconds of one episode 2 years ago, thank you.
You're welcome.
See, it'd be a shame if you were just watching these American remakes and weren't aware, because there is so much quality there to be found. I had to find it.
I scream. I love to go to the films and I scream and I jump and I watch this thing and I clenched myself up so much that all my chest muscles were so sore when I left the theater.
Horror Etc. podcast. It's coming for you.
I want to talk about how the show came to be. I want to hear what your memory, Mr. Mash.
So we were sitting there in the basement, hanging out.
As we do.
You were just like, hey man, we do a podcast? And I was like, cool.
Basically.
No, seriously, he'd been talking to me for a couple of weeks at that time.
Yeah.
About wanting to do it.
Oh, I should clarify, JD and I have been friends since high school.
No, middle school, man.
Middle school, yeah.
7th grade.
We figured out once we've been friends for like...
longer than how old we were when...
We met, yeah.
Yeah,
We've known each other longer...
For longer than we haven't.
Yeah. So, anyway, for a couple of weeks I'd been saying, hey man, you interested in doing a podcast? JD's side of things is, oh yeah, sure.
I didn't realize what we were getting into.
No, you did not.
And I don't think you did either. More so on my end, I had never even really listened to a podcast.
Still haven't.
I have listened to at least 3 full episodes.
Yeah, but other than your own show?
No, I had no idea what a podcast even really was.
Yeah, I think I described it to you as a radio show on the internet.
Now I have a better understanding of what it is.
This is a big difference between JD and I. I say, hey man, you want to do this thing? And he thinks about it for a while and goes, yeah, sure. I agonize for months about shit. Years sometimes. My interest in doing a podcast began with another podcast. I started getting into podcasts, I think, my first year of college, so probably 2007, 2006. The very first podcast I started listening to is the very first podcast everybody starts listening to, which is This American Life. I've always loved horror. I've always had a huge interest in horror. It's always been my favorite genre of film or anything, really. I said, well, what are some good horror-related podcasts? And I came upon the show called Horror Etc., which is a show done by 2 guys in Canada, Tony and Ted, sometimes Doug. I really, really loved Horror Etc. I think the very first episode I listened to was their Vincent Price episode. And then I went back and tried to listen to everything they had ever done. Horror Etc. ended about 2 years ago. They've done some sporadic episodes since then. The last couple years of Horror Etc. I thought were a big drop-off in quality. Their show was weekly. Originally, the format of Horror Etc. was they would pick a topic, werewolf movies, zombie movies, Stephen King movies, what have you, and they would talk about a bunch of different movies fitting that theme, which you'll notice is more or less the way we've always done it on this show. But as Horror Etc. went on, their format of their show changed from talking about a specific topic to just talking about what they had seen that week, just whatever was on their mind. And while I always enjoyed listening to those guys talk, I missed the structure and the format of those earlier episodes. And that was what I hoped to do with the Bangers and Mash show. I really wanted to do every episode themed around a concrete topic. I'm happy to say we covered a lot of things over the years that they never got to on Horror Etc.
Buddy, I know this is all very interesting, but should we tell the viewers how we, or should I say I, came up with the name?
I don't even remember. How did we come up with the name?
We had looked up Bangers and Mash or something like that online one day, and we decided that we were going to have it for dinner one day.
Right.
And you were like, hey man, what should we name our podcast? And I was like, The Bangers and Mash Show. It kind of stuck.
I remember when I first started trying to think of names for a podcast, and I didn't want it to be specifically just horror, because I know JD and I knew we'd want to talk about comic books and superheroes and random bullshit. I wanted it to have a general theme so we could talk about just about anything. Originally, I was thinking of calling the show The Hack Show, which in retrospect was a terrible title. And Bangers and Mash may very well be a terrible title as well. It's catchier, though. It's much catchier than what I had come up with initially. You said Bangers and Mash, said, oh, and we'll call ourselves Mr. Banger and Mr. Mash. And I believe there was some argument about who would be which.
I don't remember. I just know I ended up getting stuck with the mashed potatoes.
And I think the idea was always we'd be Bangers and Mash, and then anytime we have a guest on the show, they would
be the gravy.
Which only ended up ever happening once. A couple of our friends, a couple of the people we thanked, asked to be on the show, and we just could never work anything out scheduling-wise. And on the off chance you're listening, Jarrett, Rob, I apologize we never had a chance to have you on. Aaron, I apologize that we never had a chance to have you on the show, or have you on the show again in Rob's case. So anyway, that was the origin of the show. I basically wanted to continue in the spirit of a podcast I loved. I feel like for the most part, we succeeded in that.
Okay, so I know you're proud of the topics that we covered. What about the topics we didn't?
Well, do we want to go ahead and jump to the huge list of topics we wanted to do, or in some cases I wanted to do, that we never got to? When you and I started the podcast, we made up this huge list of topics we want to talk about. And over the years, a lot of things were added to that list.
Yes.
Some of these came pretty close to happening. The first one on the list here is Frankenstein Through the Ages. We did an episode that was called Dracula Through the Ages, and I really wanted to do a Frankenstein episode as a companion to that. Big problem with that is JD really just didn't want to sit down and watch the Hammer Frankenstein movies.
I love the Hammer Dracula movies. Every Hammer vampire movie I've seen, I've liked. Just not a big fan of their Frankenstein movies. I don't know why, they just don't resonate with me in any kind of way.
One I really pushed to do, I really wanted to do, was an episode called Don't Go in the Woods that would have been about horror film set in woods or forests.
Yeah, but wasn't there like a lot of Italian horror in this one?
No, it's a lot of have weird, low-budget slasher movies from the 80s and 70s that I probably would never be able to get you to watch. Real brain-melting stuff like Don't Go in the Woods or The Forest. Films that I love that are objectively terrible. The Hillbilly Horror episode, The Savage South is what we ended up calling it, was sort of meant to be a companion piece to that episode.
King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table.
Sometimes a movie would be coming up and we would think, oh, we'll do an episode that'll tie in with that movie. The trailers would start coming out and the movie would look terrible. For example, this year, when that Guy Ritchie King Arthur movie came out, I'm a big fan of Arthurian legend, and I was very excited for the idea of a new King Arthur franchise. And I thought, well, absolutely, let's do a King Arthur episode. But then that movie looked fucking terrible, and we'd scrap that.
By the way, it is terrible.
Occasionally we'd have a plan for a connected series of episodes. We never really did too many that actually worked out that way. We did Atomic Age Monsters. We did that last year. Originally, it's going to be a follow-up episode to that called Modern Age Monsters, where we talk about monster movies from the 70s and 80s, the era of latex and rubber monsters. I even got you to watch a couple movies for that episode, and it just never came together. A trilogy we really went to do would have been End of the World movies. And that would have segued into Atomic Apocalypse movies, like Dr. Strangelove, which is one of my favorite films, The Day After, stuff like that, Testament, On the Beach. And that would segue into post-apocalyptic movies. Our original hope is we would do this in November of 2012 when the world was supposed to end.
Yeah.
And then we thought, okay, we'll do it when Fury Road comes out. Clearly that didn't happen. Holiday horror was when I wanted to do so much because I love Christmas set horror movies. It just never happened.
Well, but you say that never happened, but in a way it did over the various years because we talked about our Christmas traditions, a lot of which involved a lot of Christmas horror movies.
Yeah, so it did come up in a way. There were things I always felt like we really should have gotten to. We did a zombie episode about the George Romero zombie movies and various adjacent franchises, but we never did a general zombie movie episode. We never got to talk about Dead Alive and the Beyond and things like Cemetery Man.
It's because I didn't want to watch Dead Alive again.
It's such a good movie. I don't understand why you don't love Dead Alive. We did an Evil Dead episode. We were supposed to do a Bruce Campbell episode and a Sam Raimi episode to go with those, and we just never got to it. Retro slashers. I love slasher movies from the 80s, standalone, non-franchise slasher movies like The Burning, Madman, The Prey, Silent Scream, House on Sorority Row. These are some of my favorite films. The Prowler. It's a topic I was really, really passionate about, and JD was not as well read, and getting him to actually watch all these things would have been way more effort than probably worth putting in.
Well, it's just more along the lines of me having the time. Of those movies,
of this list of retro slasher films I've got here,
I think I've maybe seen one.
You've seen The Burning and The Prowler, and I know because I watched them together.
Well, okay, so I've seen two.
You've never seen Happy Birthday to Me. You've never seen The Mutilator. You've never seen Night School. I love these kind of movies. I love what I call satanic panic movies. In the 70s, because of stuff like The Omen and The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby, there was a trend of devil movies. Race with the Devil and The Devil's Reign, Asylum of Satan, Brotherhood of Satan. I love these films. That was another episode where getting JD to watch all that stuff would be impossible. Did Killer Clowns recently. That was supposed to be a two-parter because I wanted to do Evil Carnival movies as well. The topic I think is a really weird, interesting subgenre of horror. I would have loved to talk about films like Freaks and Santa Sangre. These are films I really, really enjoy, but it just never happened. There are a lot of these here. Hunting Humans was a weird, esoteric topic I wanted to do. Movies like The Most Dangerous Game and Battle Royale where people are being hunted for sport.
That was just another one that had seen so little movies on that list.
Yeah, I mean, Vincent Price was a topic I really wanted to get to. That would lead to episodes about the Roger Corman, Edgar Allan Poe movies, horror films set in wax museums, and then The Fly. The Fly, there's only 5 of those movies. We probably could have done that at any point. Horror on the Open Road was one I really wanted to do because I've always been a little fascinated with films like The Hitcher or The Car. I love The Car. Any movies that deal with evil hitchhikers or evil self-propelled vehicles. Death Race 2000 is another one I love that we would have talked about on that topic. Killer Robots, horror anthologies. Don't Go in the Water was one I wanted to do. We did a Jaws episode, and I wanted to talk about the knockoffs like Orca and Piranha, Shockwaves, Humanoids from the Deep.
Moose Jaws. The reason that never happened is because Moose Jaws still hasn't come out yet.
We did that 3-part Godzilla episode, which I think, and that was supposed to be a precursor to an episode about other Toho monster movies like Rodan and the Mysterians and Mothra. We wanted to do an episode about other Daikaiju movies like Gorgo and Demajin. Video game movies came very, very close to happening. We actually made a list of titles we wanted to talk about with video game movies because I think you really wanted to force me to watch all of the Resident Evil movies. I saw that first one years ago, thought it was trash, and have never felt the need to ever return to them.
They just never stopped making those damn things, so...
It was actually on the docket for this year, and it didn't happen. Talking about Walken!
Oh man, we never did talk about
We never did talk... We wanted to do a whole episode about Christopher Walken. Killer puppet movies, killer doll movies, that was on the list. This is a fun title here. Surgical scares, medical madness, and hospital horror. That's all one episode. I think it's pretty self-descriptive there. Kids Who Kill, Brains from Beyond. They're all are a bunch of movies about killer brains. The brain from Planet Eros and the brain that wouldn't die and The Brain. It's such a weird subgenre of horror. That's one I really wanted to get to. Chernobyl was an episode that was never going to happen. As we go down through this list of episode topics, they start to get very esoteric. Then we get to scare planes, which I think I mostly wanted to do because of the pun in the title. There are a lot of horror movies set on airplanes.
Twilight Zone has a segment in it.
The Night Flyer, Snakes on a Plane, Red Eye, Flight of the Living Dead, The Langoliers. Big Bugs was one I really wanted to do. Movies like Them, Tarantula, Deadly Mantis. That would have led to an episode about movies about regular-sized insects, like Kingdom of the Spiders and Bug, The Swarm, things of that nature. Slugs, Squirm, Ticks.
Ticks has giant ticks in it, I think.
Well, yeah, but they're still smaller than people.
At the end, there's a tick that's bigger than a person.
Oh my god, I need to see this movie. And
You've never seen Ticks?
I've never seen Ticks.
Oh my god, they impregnate this person and the tick grows out of the person.
This is on my watch list for next October. Killer animals was such a broad topic that I actually spun off. Rats are really their own genre. I love the quote-unquote Willard trilogy, so that's one I really want to
I
talk
didn't know
about.
it was a trilogy.
Well, there's the original Willard Ben and then the remake Willard. So.
Well, okay, but that doesn't make it a trilogy.
Yeah, but the remake is kind of a sequel because Bruce Davison is in the pictures as his dad. It's actually Willard Jr.
Get the fuck out of here.
Or Snakes. Killer Snake movies was one I wanted to do
You
because...
mean snakes?
Yeah, that would have been the name of the episode. Alligator movies. Lovecraft movies is one I really wanted to do. And would have been another one where JD just isn't particularly well read. JD's never seen Reanimator.
Oh, sure. Throw it out there.
Terror in the Isles is what I wanted to do, which is horror movies set in movie theaters, which there are a surprising number of. Alien abductions is a topic I'm really interested in from the sociological perspective. In the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of weird alien abduction movies. Communion, or Fire in the Sky, or Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County, which is a really cool pre-Blair Witch found footage movie. This is a topic I want to bring up primarily because I came up with this title, and you looked at it for years and didn't get the pun. There are a lot of Killer Scarecrow movies, and I wanted to do an episode about that, and it would have been called Stalk of the Scarecrow. S-T-A-L-K, but it's a pun because of stock, like corn stalks. That just went completely over JD's head.
I think it's still going over my head.
Space movies, like non-alien invasion space movies was on those. Super Zeros, which would have been about unconventional, weird superhero movies.
Like Meteor Man or Blank Man, kind of give you an idea.
Mystery Men, Kick-Ass, Super. We've talked about Mystery Men a lot on the show. It's one of our faves. Time travel movies, Clive Barker movies, Jekyll and Hyde, cryptozoology-themed movies like Bigfoot or Mothman. That's a topic I really, really like. You know, The Matrix and Star Trek, pirate movies. These are all on our list of topics of things that we thought about maybe doing in episodes. Psycho and Hannibal Lecter. Those were two topics that came very close to happening. We had a lot of plans for the show, and a lot of these I'm really disappointed that we never got to. JD, do you have any favorite episodes or favorite moments through the history of the podcast?
There is one moment that is
Near and
dear to my heart.
I know what you're talking about.
And it was the first time we'd ever tried to do this. We were meeting Robert Englund. I said, hey man, why don't we try to get him to record a blurb for the podcast?
I mean, we can try. He might want extra for it. I don't know. We'll try. If we're going to do this for anybody, it's got to be for Robert Englund.
Right. He did it, no problem. He even hammed it up for us.
Delivered this beautiful soundbite for us.
To this day, whenever I hear that episode open with that laugh, it warms my heart. Freddy Krueger in real life is just a downright, down-to-earth good guy.
Yeah, Bob Englund is great. We've made a tradition of that. Every time we go to the convention, we try and get a soundbite from a guest.
And we've had some good ones, and we've had some duds.
Voice of Ghostface gave us a really cool one. And then we'll have ones where Daniel Harris just goes, hey, this is Daniel Harris. You're listening to the Bangers and Mash Show. I don't want to name names. That's awful. But fuck it, it's the last episode, right? We're burning bridges. Who gives a shit? You suck, Daniel Harris.
It took some finagling and some persuasion, but we did get Doug Bradley to record a...
Yeah, that almost didn't happen. I had such a good experience with Bob Englund. We felt, well, we can get one of these every year. Our first Monster Mania together, we had met John Kassir. And man, we missed an opportunity not getting a blurb from him. Because he was super cool. Can you imagine the Crypt Keeper opening the show? That would have been, if he ever comes back to a Monster Mania, we absolutely have to get it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's a favorite memory of mine, too. I've already said I'm really proud of the 4-part Godzilla episode. I think that turned out really well. It came out pretty much exactly the way I imagined it. We did that one justice. The first episode we recorded that I felt like the show was really working was the Urban Legend episode, was episode 11. And because of the kind of brain I am, I tend to really like the analytical episodes. The Exorcist episode, I think, turned out really well. I don't know if the listeners can figure out which episodes are the quote-unquote filler episodes. The ones where
Those are the commentaries.
The commentaries are all filler. But there are a couple episodes where we needed to record, and JD hadn't watched anything. We really didn't have a topic, so we threw together something very quickly. Some of those turned out okay, like the What is Horror episode, where we talk about what horror means to us as a genre and how we define it. That
Which, in retrospect, probably should have been our first episode.
Probably should have been. I picked Universal Horror as our very first episode because of the origin of my horror fandom.
Rightfully so. Should have been the first episode we used to cover a movie.
Yeah, because it's basically
But we should have opened it with what horror means to us, I feel like.
Would have saved us a lot of arguments over the years about genre classification, perhaps. But that one turned out really well. I like that episode a lot. Do you have any other favorite memories from the 6 years of our life we've put into this?
I gotta say, that a lot of my favorite memories are shit that was probably never put in the podcast. When you walked away to use the bathroom or something, and...
That happened a couple of times.
How many times over the years, Zach, have you been trying to edit audio and then all of a sudden you'll hear a bunch of random shit?
Yeah, a couple of times. I have walked away from the mic for whatever reason. JD has then picked up the mic, sang an obscene ditty or something. And I guess now's the time to mention this. Over the years, I have cut a lot of stuff out. To give you an idea, usually our episodes are about an hour to 2 hours long. And when I'm done cutting them, about an hour of raw audio usually equals about 40 to 30 minutes. 2 hours of raw audio usually equals about an hour. I cut about 50% of what we record out. And that's after I add music and bumpers and stuff like that. So that gives you an idea of how much material is left on the cutting room floor. And usually it's nothing interesting. Usually it's long silences. Usually it's the noises we make in between words. But occasionally there will be a digression. Well, there's always digressions, but occasionally there will be a digression that is so entertaining that I just can't force myself to part with it. Collected some of these outtakes over the years, and because this is the very last episode, my original dream was we would have a Patreon or some sort of giveaway or some sort of donation prize or something, and I would send out this exclusive audio of just us being morons and douchebags and goofballs out to whoever that person was. That never happened. The show never reached that level of popularity or anything. So instead, I will present it to you now. This is some outtakes from the history of the show. In 2009, that movie was Paranormal Activity. Excuse me, that movie was Paranormal Activity, not Paranormal Activity.
That sure what Paranormal Activity?
Yeah, Richard Nixon, Paranormal Activity. I want 2 for Paranormal Activity.
I'm not a crook.
I am not a ghost.
I need 2 tickets to see Paranormal
Activity.
That guy has incredible jowls, people. That's what we're making fun of.
Richard, how the fuck did we get on the topic of Richard Nixon? And he doesn't
His name
take...
was Micah, by the way.
I said Micah.
No, you said Mika.
Whatever. I emphasized the wrong vowel. Fuck you.
Jeez, sorry.
Mika. Micah? Fuck you. Micah. The dude. The guy. The Spock-looking motherfucker.
New Spock, not old Spock.
Yeah, and there's a music box.
He meant sphere, not spear.
There's a round geometrical shape that resembles the box from Hellraiser in design.
There's a round geometrical object in the shape of a ball that represents...
We're really going to have this concept on air?
The square geometrical object that resembles a box from Hellraiser.
From the motion picture Hellraiser.
From the motion picture
Written and directed by Clive Barker, released in 1986.
Starring Doug Bradley. Jeepers, creepers,
Where'd you get those peepers? Jeepers, creepers, where'd you get those eyes? And it's basically just...
I ate them from a kid. Duh. Hello, my honey. Hello, my baby.
Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire. Baby, my heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey, you'll lose me, and then I'll be left alone. Oh, baby, telephone and tell me I'm your own. That's getting cut out.
I was going to go with he's the dude.
He's the dude, yeah.
He's the dude. She's the dude. We're all dudes. Hey, you don't remember that song?
No.
Oh my god, it was a spin-off music video from Good Burger. And it's
Fuck, man. You are reaching way back in the archives.
It's like Kel, and he's like, he's a dude, she's a dude, I'm a dude, we're all dudes, hey. After this, we're looking at
There's so much stuff we gotta look up here. And I like James Marsters' number. That's actually like one of the... I know. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is gonna be over soon. This is the worst episode ever.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm a failure. He yells at me all the time.
You want to go back in your box?
No.
You die like that again tomorrow, you're gonna sleep in that grave. Stop fucking crying! I'm cutting all of that out.
I know, it predates Bonkers, but I mean...
Bonkers was originally conceived as a Roger Rabbit cartoon.
I know.
Well, why are you saying stupid shit like that?
To make you feel smarter, Zach.
Well, you're doing a good job of it. I always feel smarter when you're in the room. This is the kind of chemistry you don't get with other podcast
That's
listeners.
right.
I love the Weasels. Aren't they visually such great designs?
You say you love the Wiggles.
They're
a toddler show, Zach.
I mean, I gotta rewatch all those movies, though, so...
Okay, nerds.
Sorry. Are we recording?
Foot dive. Foot dive.
Foot dive?
Yeah. Dude, we should totally play Marvel vs. Capcom 3 today.
Yeah, we should.
Foot dive.
Shadow Blade!
Sword Fist! Hadouken!
Sonic Boom! He's not in that game.
No, he's not.
So we should probably get to work on this.
Whoops, yes. You're despicable.
You've got a lisp.
Yes. Who's the asshole to put an S in that word? Can you tell me that, audience? Who put an S in the word lisp?
We have stumbled far off of that.
Anyhow.
I'm actually kind of excited for The Purge now. What the fuck are you doing?
Trying to get you to mess up. Holy shit, we're recording this!
And
Mustafa Akkad.
yes.
The most terrorist-sounding name ever.
Hey, whoa, way to be racist, dude.
I'm sorry.
Oh, he's Iranian. He must be a terrorist.
I didn't mean that. I just meant, like, his name sounds like he should be the leader of a terrorist organization. Osama bin Laden is the only more terrorist name I can think of.
I'm gonna cut all of this out.
You're making it sound weird.
Your face.
Your face.
Your face is face.
Your face is face.
You're my face.
Your ass.
Balls.
Cock and balls.
Man vagina.
Vagina man.
Whoa. That's a really strange superhero. Because I'm picturing like this guy that's got like a vagina in his chest, but he can pull anything out of it, like guns or whatever.
I was thinking he could like throw black hole vaginas.
See, that's just sexist. Anyway, wow, I'm going to cut all of that out.
Kaiser Vagina Man.
Adding Kaiser to something does not make it cooler. You know that, right?
It does make it funnier.
That's a matter of opinion. Okay, so...
You laughed so hard at Kaiser Vagina Man.
I don't think I laughed that hard.
You're still laughing.
Kaiser Vagina Man. Shut up, JD. Now, this film immediately... Oh, shit, I killed Grumpy Cat.
Now, this film immediately... Ah, shit, I killed Grumpy Cat.
Hi, Uma. Hey, how about you go back upstairs?
Ricky, I want to be in the show.
Okay, yeah, oh.
Alright, well, I'll take her out. Come on, Emma.
Come on,
Let's go
take
upstairs.
her upstairs.
Come on.
Throw the gate. No, not that way.
Come on, Emma.
No, this way. Oh my god, you're stupid. I love you, but you're so fucking dumb. Constantly making terrible one-liners, like, motherfucker.
That is a great one-liner, Zach.
Yellow Rain is just pee.
I know there's Sharknado, but now we need to have an Alligator-nado, and then have Sharknado versus Alligator.
No, it needs to be Gatorquake.
Gatorquake? Yes! And then Sharknado versus Gatorquake. Alright, I'm sorry.
We keep wandering off topic today. So all of that.
Every time I flex my muscles, volcanoes explode and kill thousands of people. It's very tragic.
Wow.
I saved a volcano's marriage.
And that's something we didn't mention about War of the Worlds, is they're tripods because the aliens have 3 fingers and 3 legs. Everything has 3 on their planet.
Oh my god. You know what this means?
What?
H.G. Wells was in the Illuminati. Illuminati are confirmed right here, brother. Now, what's his name is going to perform the smackdown on Vince McMahon, to which he'll be laying in the form of a triangle because he's part of the Illuminati, and his casket's a triangle, brother. You have to dig a triangle grave because he's in the Illuminati.
So much editing.
He's got a third eye.
You know-
You can't see it until I punch him so hard that it opens. But he's got a third eye because he's in the Illuminati.
Do you also believe that God looks like Alanis Morissette?
No.
Anywho, I guess I'm just going to cut off the recording now. You know, another reason the show is ending is I hate dealing with YouTube. YouTube is such a pain in the ass. Recently, our Hellraiser episode was blocked in most of Eastern Europe, in the Czech Republic, Slovakia, the Ukraine, and places like that, because of visual copyright detection. Now, this is some fucking bullshit, let me tell you. I usually end the episodes with some sort of outro music, and usually, if it's a well-known song, if it's a song that you can get on iTunes, YouTube recognizes it, and then the rights holder to that piece of music will monetize your video. And I hate having commercials in front of my YouTube videos, but I don't really care about that. That doesn't bother me. It doesn't restrict access to the video in any way. I expect that. I never made the show to make money off of it. That's why most of the episodes do not have commercials in front of them. I never monetized any of my videos. If there's a Bangers and Mash episode that has monetization on it, it's done by the copyright holder of a piece of music or whatever. But what really pisses me off, what I think is egregious, is when an episode is blocked for visual content. Alright, Harvey Weinstein, I know things are not looking too good for you right now, but that fucking intern you paid 2 cents a dollar for to track down shit on YouTube to ding for copyright because of a picture of Pinhead, fuck you. You are a sick, disgusting human being, and I hope you rot in hell. And it happened a couple times. The Leprechaun episode, I think, is blocked in Canada for visual content. Arnold Schwarzenegger episode, Signs of Schwarzenegger, which is another one I like, was blocked by Fox for visual content in America, and I contested it. And this is the bullshit thing about YouTube copyright. Studios go out there, take videos down or try and block videos because of content. But if you challenge that copyright claim, usually there's nobody there to challenge you back. They care enough to disrupt you, to annoy you with this, but they don't care enough to actually protect their IP. It's just a cock measuring contest. They just want to throw their weight around and try and see if they can abuse and push around little people like me. Well, it's not going to happen. Fuck you, corporate stooges. I will not be manipulated by your capitalistic interests. Viva la revolution! So anyway, I wanted to get that out there because I feel very strongly about that.
You don't say.
It's not a problem we ran into too often. 4 episodes, and our 116 episodes, 4 blocked. You wanted to say something, JD?
No. Just you're talking a lot. I'm just trying to make sure everybody knows that I'm still here.
I've done a couple episodes without you. Sometimes wonder if anybody does notice when you're not around.
Any of you guys miss me when I'm not in the episodes?
Yeah! Does anybody miss JD when he's not around? Sometimes I've been editing an episode and I'll go on and on and on for hours about something, and then your response will be, yeah. And sometimes I wonder, does JD even need to be here? Can I just have like a soundboard, pipe that in there?
Yeah. By the time you get done saying what you're going to say, there's really nothing more for me to add unless I contest what you're saying.
Which is always fun. Our bickering has always been one of the things people like about
But
the
for
show.
the most part, so we agree on a lot of stuff. It's a shame we don't have like a soundbite of all the arguments we've gotten into over the years. That would be like a fun little homage thing we could do.
Put the Benny Hill music underneath of it. So is there anything else you want to say about your experience being Mr. MASH?
I know I griped a lot along the way, but I did have fun doing the podcast. I had fun getting to see some new movies that I've never seen before. I think that's one highlight of the show. I know I didn't get to watch as many movies as you wanted me to, for sure, but there's a lot of episodes that we did that I didn't get to watch a lot of content for. I didn't do the episode justice because I didn't have a lot of input.
I feel that way about some of the episodes, too.
I guess that's not so much a memory, but a regret.
And I have regrets about everything. My main regret is we had a lot of topics I really wanted to get to that we just never had a chance to do.
Should we talk about some future projects that we might be doing?
This is the end of the regular broadcast of the Bangers and Mash Show.
You're looking at 2 guaranteed episodes a year, guys. Maybe a couple more sprinkled in.
Release schedule has always been pretty irregular. For about 2 or 3 years, I was getting 2 episodes out every month. We really had a good groove, and I'm very proud of that time. If you just missed the sound of my voice, listeners, I am a co-host on the So Weird podcast, which is me and 3 very nice young women talking about an old Disney Channel show called So Weird. That comes out about a week. We're taking a break for the holidays right now. I've done a couple appearances on Marcus Jones, John Pod Van Dam, his Jean-Claude Van Damme podcast. I want to do...
There's a Pod Van Dam.
I want to do more stuff like that, and I've already had a couple of possible appearances coming up. And anytime I show up on some other show, I intend on linking it on the Facebook.
Okay, but let's talk about our future projects that we might be...
I don't want to talk about this in too much detail because I don't know if it's going to happen or not. You and I have been kicking around wanting to write a screenplay, conceptualize the slasher film set on Black Friday, based heavily on JD's own experiences in
the retail world.
Yeah, and that's something that I want to start working on in a serious way now.
And we might start working on the Waffle Hut a little more.
Yeah, we have a secondary YouTube channel where we post basically shitpost videos. That's something I want to put a little more effort into now that we don't have the commitment of the show. And JD and I have even discussed the possibility of doing another podcast someday. We're going to take a long break because we're both burned out. And if we do it, it's not going to be the Bangers and Mash Show. It's going to be a completely different format. It's going to be based around, instead of an entire theme, it's going to be one movie, which is where a lot of podcasts have gone. Most film-related podcasts do it that way. But that could happen in the future, but we don't know yet. I don't want to make any promises.
It's going to happen. I'll make them, guys.
And if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, I have my film review blog, Film Thoughts, zaxfilmthoughts.blogspot.com. I think this is my 8th year. I'm coming up close on a whole decade of blogging. I will continue to do that as long as I have the time and energy to do it. I love blogging. Writing my books. I have 2 books out now. One book that's all me, and then I have an appearance in another anthology. I definitely intend on keep doing that. I hope to get another book out one of these days. Hopefully soon. And I'm on Twitter, @LastMonsterKid on Twitter, if you ever just want to bug me. JD doesn't really have much of an active web presence.
I mean, I'm on Facebook a lot.
Yeah, and if you want to leave a comment on the Facebook group, we always read those, and we're always very thankful for them. And I can get a hold of JD. JD and I see each other every week, even if we aren't recording. Hit me up on Twitter or through my blog. I'm always there. You can always contact me that way. I guess that's the end.
Of the show as we
It's
know
the
it.
end of the show as we know it, and it truly is. And Lenny Bruce is not afraid. I honestly never thought this moment would come where we close up shop forever. I'm feeling pretty bittersweet, pretty melancholy right now, man. I know I've already thanked everybody, but I just want to do that again. Thank you so much for going on this journey with us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for commenting. It really does mean the whole world to me. I'm so happy that something you and I have made together connected with people.
The one thing I want to say is, and it's in lines with what you said, but more specifically, I'd like to thank you for any constructive criticism that you had given us over the years. There's been some suggestions for future episodes to do, which I think we did hit most of.
Yeah, I think we did hit most of the suggestions. Lee, over the years, asked for a Nightmare on Elm Street episode, which we did, and I think commentary on The Thing, which we did. I know David Brown wanted a Gamma episode, which is coming out. It's actually still in the editing bay as of this recording, but it will get out before this episode is released. The last episode, so I'm going to call somebody out. I don't know if our listeners ever noticed, but many of the episodes of the podcast have 1 thumbs down on YouTube, and I know exactly who's doing it. I won't name any names, but it's somebody who's had it out for me for quite a few years. He hasn't been as active recently. I will say it's a he. He hasn't been as active recently, thankfully. I was real tired of dealing with his fucking bullshit. His reasons for downvoting the show have nothing to do with the show and everything to do with a completely imaginary conflict that exists only inside of his sick, twisted mind. I don't engage with this douchebag, except now. But aside from that one person, the overwhelming majority of interaction we had with listeners is very, very positive. Thank you for being part of the Bangers and Mash Army.
This is the Bangers and Bash Show, signing off for
fucking-
the last time.
For the last time forever. I guess it's time to fucking kill myself. Here, I'm loading the gun. Alright, JD. Alright, pull the trigger, man. I've got it, the barrel against my head. Do it. Pull the trigger. We talked about this. I was hoping for some reluctance on your behalf. Thanks, man. Our friendship means so much to you.
I'm just tired of fighting with you about it, man.
That's the note we go out on, you and me laughing and joking around. And isn't that what it's always been about?
Yeah.
That's great. It starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes, an airplane, and Lenny Bruce is not afraid. Eye of a hurricane, listen to yourself, churn worlds of its own needs, dumbest of your own needs, feared up but now speak, grunt, no strength, no, the ladder starts to collide out with a fear of height, down height, wire in a fire, represent the 7 games and government for hire in a combat site, left wasn't coming in a hurry with the furies breathing down on your neck. Team reports, bevel Trump, table crop, no, look at that low plane fly, then, overflow, population, common group, but it'll do, save yourself, world serve its own needs, listen to your heart bleed, time it with the rapture and the reverend and the right, you patriotic, slam fight, bright light, feeling pretty psyched, it's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, I feel fine. 6 o'clock TV out, don't get caught for a tower, slash and burn, return, listen to yourself churn, lock him in, uniform, bug burning, bloodline, every motive escalate, automotive incinerate, light a candle, light a motive, step down, watch your heel crush, this means no fear, cavalier, renegade, steering clear, tournament of lies, offer me solutions, offer me alternatives, and I decline. It's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, I feel fine. It's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, I feel fine. The overnight drips an ice continental drift divide mountains in a line, laying up Bernstein, laying up Brezhnev, Lenny Bruce on the banks, birthday party cheesecake, jelly bean, boom, you symbiotic patriotic stamp net, right? It's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, I feel fine. It's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it, it's the end of the world as we know it,